I was going to make some kind of quip about the Twilight Zone when making this one particular supernatural story video, but it suddenly occurred to me that time has passed and maybe there are people out there who don't actually know the Twilight Zone. Things have changed an awful lot. Either way, welcome back. This is one of my video series about strange supernatural stories. You can submit yours to me via the email address nickdutchtarot@gmail.com, and I may read it out on the basis I think that, it's good enough, doesn't have too much adult content or whatever, if you know what I mean. So just remember that the stories that you send me has to be true, it has to have happened to yourself. If it hasn't, then tell me it's a story that someone else told you, and so on and so forth. Now, the story I'm going to read out to you today is rather odd. This is the one experience that led this person to investigate witchcraft, occultism, and of course to find my channel. So that's what's so really, really cool about this one particular story. I'm just going to go through it, and you make of it what you see fit. Obviously I want to just build up a wide variety of different types of supernatural story on this one particular channel, and then we can all make up our own mind. It says here, "Hello Nick." Hello. As a note, I'd like to remain anonymous. You'll remain anonymous. Your wishes will be taken into consideration. Okay. It says here, "I live in Australia, and I find that the oddest spooky story I can give is from a while back when I was on a 5-week school camp. One night, I believe on the 2nd or 3rd week in, I was in my bed sleeping until I awoke in a sweat. I recall well looking down at my digital watch and seeing it was about 10 p.m, although I cannot say if it was precisely on the dot or if there was some difference in time. We slept on the 2nd floor of the dorm in bunks. Everyone save myself was asleep that I know of. I remember clear as day a window adjacent to myself over a classmate, and I saw through this window a light, or as I logically thought, a reflection perhaps of some torch someone had for some unknown reason. This was a camp where rest was heavily scheduled and precious in nature. I recall the name and face of the person above me. However, I don't know who lay on the top bunk of the bed behind me. Across the short dividing wall, I checked to see where the light was being emitted from, and as I did, it appeared to vanish. That I would have thought peculiar enough. However, as I lay down back on the bed, I see it descend back down, almost cautiously, from behind the division of the window, obscured by the upper half of the bunk bed of the other students were sleeping in. And at this moment, I look around the room to see if it was coming from somewhere else. I even looked to the background of the light, but find nothing, absolutely nothing. There was not even a perceivable origin for the light that could be seen through the window. No centre of light giving way to smaller, less intense flares, so no strange reflections. Just an apparent open space that I can recall, although I may be slightly incorrect in my recalling. I was immediately terrified, and I was sure at this moment that I was going to die. Without sense, I began to think these thoughts. That, something somehow was going to kill me. I think it's rather interesting that we have that expression of fear coming out in the story right at this point. I saw the light. It appeared to hit the ground. I thought of a number of scenarios that could surpass the idea of reflection, but it violated my logic in an obscure way, which I'm now thankful for. And now I am without sound logical answer for it. I moved slightly, keeping my head in place, and I saw it lift up behind the dividing of the window. I now perceive its movements as cautious and filled with curiosity. So the author is explaining this as if the light itself has its own consciousness. Okay. After I saw it lift up, it began to slowly move back down again, revealing itself to me one more time. I thought it may have been from a distance, but from what I had perceived of its movements, it was quite small, and just outside of the window. I could go on, but from my complete shivering fear, I accepted the possibility that I might die, not courageously but cowardly. I rolled back to the window and faced the wooden planks of the dividing wall, seeing the light from the something outside the window, and cast my shadow onto what was once a pitch black filled room. I closed my eyes. The next day I awoke and found the window filled with nothing, only the light being of the morning sun. I now only have extreme regret for that night, for being too cowardly to investigate the strange light, and refuse to allow the fear of death to prevent me from exploring the obscure. I have a deeply held appreciation for that night in that one particular sense. It was that light that changed much of my life. After the camp, I got into Wicca, into the occult, and then the New Age, and then found you. I have grown into what I'd like to would like to consider to be an inquisitive person, and I owe much of this to an experience that I know little about, but hope to revisit on some days. Right, now from my point of view, this is a very curious story, because there are experiences similar to that which I had many years ago, which I didn't put down to something occult, although it was an experience that I had which kind of like preceded a lot of the more weird supernatural type experiences that I did have. Could it be an orb-related phenomenon? Could it be somehow part of a variety of ghost phenomena? Essentially we don't know. Could it have been some kind of psychic or clairvoyant perception brought about by a semi-form of sleep paralysis, or something related to an astral projection experience? I think it's hard to say, but there's aspects of that kind of experience which could possibly be part of all of these things. We just don't know enough. But I just thought I'd leave you with that right now, and just to remind you, don't be afraid. Sleep tight.